Yo! Video games.
So yeah, we had a steamy top 10 last night, and I think I just kind of want to clear the air a little bit about, especially Zelda, just to kind of get that out of the way. Where, because like, you know, Kenny's playing the heal bit, and I kind of wanted to do like a more like, I kind of want to like sit down here and have like a more adult, like, you know, a real talk discussion here. Where here's, I don't think either Zelda games are bad games. I think if you were to rate games on their programming alone, they're 10 out of 10s. What Monolith Soft, you know, in conjunction with EPD3 were able to accomplish on a technical level on those games is phenomenal. It is out of this world phenomenal. And I think that maybe gets a little bit lost. Again, I think the games kind of get a little bit of a bit of a pass because of their name. A little bit, yes. But some of that pass just comes from the fact that more people will have played a Zelda game because they're familiar with the franchise and, oh, well, it's got good word of mouth. So they don't see the parts of, say, Breath of the Wild or Tears that are, say, derivative or came from something else, because I don't think there's a single original thought in Breath of the Wild. I don't say that as like a huge negative. I just mean that like every mechanic or system in that game came from another game or came from somewhere else. Like it was, if anything, it's sort of a compiling of game systems and ideas that have been done before. But I think for a lot of people, they didn't see that. Because you just maybe, a lot of people don't play every video game that comes out, don't have the sort of insane awareness of every video, of the entire video game industry as a whole. That's you have to be a very, very like hardcore, in-depth nerd, video gamer to understand how many different things, all the different places, all these different things and mechanics in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom came from. So people think it's like this the revolutionary part. I would say it's not so much revolutionary, but it is it is a sort of world class in quality assurance, or QA, if anything. I think the fact that the games run as well as they do on the hardware they do, the Wii U in particular for Breath of the Wild, I can acknowledge. That is insanity, like insanely good. That is a sort of best in class, if you will, like regarding just how unbelievably well programmed those games are. But yeah, but again, there are things that I think aren't just because. So why is it in top 10? And the thing is, I don't like the idea. I know Max really wanted to push Breath for 10, but I think that's just peer pressure in a way to me, where it's like it's revolutionary. I don't think it's revolutionary. I think it's only it's revolutionary for a lot of people, because a lot of people probably played Breath of the Wild but didn't play every single video game it took an idea from, which is fair. I don't think that's a bad thing. It put them all together very well. But on the other hand, I think when you're making a personal top 10 list, it's gotta be personal. I think it's much more interesting and varied, and makes the world a more interesting place when you have a top 10 list of games you don't know about. You're maybe not familiar with, or maybe you heard about, but you didn't, but like you only heard it in passing whisper. Kirby's kind of a good example, and Metroid Dread, where they're generally people like these games. These are well-regarded games, but like for some people, even myself included, they're really, really good. For Max, Dread was his favorite Metroid game. I don't know if it's the best Metroid game to me. It's up there, but I don't know if it's the best Metroid game. But for him, it was the best Metroid game because of the mechanics, the movement, the combat refinement. Like, it was just a very smooth, fun playing experience. Now that's something you may miss. So say you may know about Metroid, and you hear it's really good and inspired a million things like Hollow Knight and Symphony of the Night and all that stuff. And you think, oh, Metroid Dread was considered, that was considered pretty good, but everyone will still say Super Metroid's the best game ever made, blah blah blah, right? So when you hear someone say, oh no, Metroid Dread is like, top 10 Switch game of all time, maybe you sit up and take notice a little more, because you discover, oh, well, this person really, really this person who plays a lot of video games, plays video games for a living, basically, really, really liked it and said he liked it more than every other game. Maybe I should give it a shot. If anything, at the end of the day, that's what I'm trying to do with my Monolith Soft Mondays, with just the Church of Xenoblade and all that in general, is that people, because humans are so visually stuck or aesthetically minded, they may see the frankly blech character designs for Xenoblade 2 and they write the game off, like Nico did. I did it at E320. I mean, I was still getting the game because I love the franchise from the first one, but like, I was not happy at E3 2017. I was just not happy with the way Xenoblade looked. 2. I was not happy with the way Xenoblade 2 was. I did not like it. Did not like it at all. I was down on the. Nobody knows this really because I mean I wasn't like live streaming in summer of 2017, but I was big down on the game. So I turned around on it because I sit there and played it, and if anything, I'm trying to get people like, hey, you should play these games. Not because I think they're good or I'm not even trying to like, upsell them, like, oh, putting them higher on this. No, I truly believe they are the best games on the system. And I can go into detail as to why. I can go into detail why I honestly think they are truly the best games on the system, better than all those other games. At the end of our list, I kind of cut it off for the YouTube video, but like Max was kind of shocked when he was like, well, you wouldn't say Future Redeemed was better than Ultimate, and like, yes, I would. And again, I'm reiterating what I said here, but Smash Ultimate has kind of a okay single player content. It's the glorified Spirit Board. It's fun to go on the Street Fighter 2 world map, go on the Donkey Kong Country World 1-1 map. It's kind of neat to do that, but it doesn't replace adventure mode in Melee. Like, it's been done better, and you understand that because of just time, the time it takes to make all this stuff and video, just budget and everything. And the other thing is that again, I don't think I'm okay with a multiplayer game with online multiplayer not having good netcode in 2018 at the end of December 2018. We were in 2019. It was just about 2019 when Smash Ultimate came out. I don't think I can sit there and say, okay, well, your multiplayer fighting game has bad netcode in 2019. I don't think that's something I can just give a pass to. Smash Ball Amazing is a one-trick pony. It is kind of, I mean, that sounds harsh, Dan, but I think you're kind of right. Where, yeah, it's just the general fighting is amazing, but there's not really much to do outside of that because everything is like the Spirit Board and. They tried. They had a really bad board game mode in Smash 4. They had the Smash Run in the 3DS, which was kind of fun, but it felt like a sort of compromise because they didn't have subspace or adventure mode. So, yeah, World of Light is a glorified just here's a bunch of random fights with it's like here's a bunch of Mortal Kombat towers. Here's a bunch of regular fights with a bunch of wacky conditioners we put on it. They tried to do the thing with the stickers, and you can level, raise up the level of the stickers. And they tried to do some stuff for that. Yeah, and maybe that's and you're right, 10 hours long. Maybe Smash Ultimate saying it goes 110% on everything that matters, but little on everything else. Yeah, and it's like I don't want to take away the accomplishment of Smash Brothers, but I mean, if you're a lawyer, it's the greatest game ever made, sure. But yeah, and they got rid of trophies in Smash Ultimate 2, and that was a staple for the whole franchise until Ultimate, and getting rid of it, it just kind of sucks. I'm not trying to start beef or anything, but like personally, I find the sales argument extremely flawed. And I tried to point this out with Madden and Call of Duty, and Steve makes a good point, like, hey, those games are great for the people. Yes, those games are great for the people playing. When we're making a personal list, I don't think we should ever take sales into account. I feel that is a flawed argument. I feel it brings nothing of any sort of quantifiable value to a game, whether or not it sold great or didn't sell great. So I think that argument on its face is really bad. And I know Max agreed with me on that one, where it's like, I don't think we should count sales. Sales should not be part of anything. Any discussion on when we're ranking something. The only thing sales should matter for was the top selling games of all time, and that's just numbers that speak for itself. So, yeah, but just sort of like clearing the air here. I don't think Zelda games, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdoms, are bad games. I do not personally like the games very much, because I feel like they have a fantastic foundation, but they have very little in the way of incentive in their gameplay. People love the gameplay loop of Breath of the Wild and Tears, and I'm not going to deny that. I'm not here to tell you you're wrong to dislike the gameplay loop of Breath and Tears. I'm just here to say I don't personally like the gameplay loop. I don't like the incentivization that the game provides, because there's, again, as has been discussed, it has a beautiful, amazing, giant world, but seeing what's around the corner visually is mostly the extent of any sort of permanence you get from exploring the world. You're basically going around looking for shrines, which take you to the exact same looking area, like a little debug dev room. You solve a puzzle, you get a thing, you get 4 of those things, you can boost your life, boost your stamina. So they're not even really part of the world, really. It's just like go, and they try to make it clever and fun with how you get into some of them, in solving a puzzle in the environment to get the shrine to come up or appear and stuff. And that's kind of fun or whatever. But again, we are talking about, you make a choice between more life, more stamina, which is feels like a very small thing kind of reward for going so far out of your way, going all over the world. When it's like most video games, it's like the amount of enemies you fight, you level up. Like there's a level up system just by engaging with the world on its own. But like, why am I so dead set on this? Here's the reasons why I'm saying Xenoblade in particular, and I think most people, even if you're kind of like unfamiliar with the games, but you know that they're highly regarded, but you might be like, well, what makes them that so good? It's a lot of it comes down to, like, there are other RPGs that have very high presentation value, very, very high ranking, or, highly, a lot of thought put into their presentation. Sure, absolutely. And there's a lot of other RPGs that have huge worlds. Absolutely, 100%. Honestly, this is a little personal, but I think this is important, and this is kind of like, okay, so why, you have games with big open wide zones, you have lots of you have an insane amount of music, an insane amount of presentation, really good cutscenes, all this stuff. So, but it's, it's still just but here's probably the worst thing about it is sort of, again, the way people visually dismiss Xenoblade because, oh, it's anime or whatever. This game is like, Xenoblade 1 is a fiercely anti-theist game. Xenoblade 2 is an interesting game about death, and 3 is about life, but they also directly go into, you know, the how religion affects worlds, how politics affects worlds, how human nature kind of tends to put itself into these cyclical, you know, these cycles of violence. And then again, as I pointed out with 3, it was making a very staunch, pointed statement about a huge religious movement started in the Americas last century, and why that logically and theologically is bad. They're making points with real, serious, real-world connections that most RPGs just don't make. Like, I know there people love to talk about your dumb shipping wars, and people love to talk about, you know, oh well, like why is this happening? Why is that happening? You know, like people love the convolution that comes with, you know, most Nomura projects, but they're not making a statement that is like directly applicable to, say, modern Christianity, modern secular Christianity, like Future Redeemed does. That shit hits. You know, there's lines in like the lines in Torna where they're like, you know, there are, you know, there's in Indal, which is the Vatican. They're like, there's a great many paintings depicting all manners of hell, but I think real hell is something like this. You know, the idea that, like, because they talk about how war and skirmishes, you know, how not only is it, yes, that has a devastating effect or whatever, but it's like the idea that, oh, we send all these priests, you know, go out to the front lines and they all go and they help all these people, and then people people just turn around and commit more violent acts or whatever. And then it's like, is a God really okay with this? Is this really the intention God had for the world? You know, to just, if you're God, you just let people do this to each other over and over, stuff like that. Which religious movement? The Rapture, South Kaiser. So they're making real, honest, good points here. You don't get that in JRPGs. You don't even really get that in Western RPGs either. Van Damme's whole... thank you, PK Hero. That is an excellent point. I love that point in Xenoblade 2 where Van Damme is just like... He's like, oh, so you're a salvager, huh? And he's just like, yeah. And he's like, oh, and Rex's like, oh, I stay away from salvaging weapons. I don't like that touch. He's like, you're involved one way or the other. It takes a lot more than weapons, to run an army. You need food. You need supplies, that flour you're eating, that bread you're eating came from flour raised over there, which is used to make bread for the soldiers. Like it or not, you're part of the war one way or another. Like, these are such good points and such poignant points and important things that, and people just overlook them because, yes, there's an anime joke, in the game. In the game in 13 hours of cutscenes, there's about a minute or two of some anime schlock for levity, but the greater points always somehow seem to miss people because anime. These are reasons why I place Xenoblade so highly, because I'm getting the gameplay, I'm getting the music, I'm getting the presentation, I'm getting the stories and characters where they're always ensemble casts that you generally come to enjoy and care about by the end. Maybe not as much 1, but definitely 2 and 3 in Torna and Future Redeemed. And then I'm getting something to chew on. I am getting food for thought with these games. I am getting statements. I am getting theological ideas posed to me, and I get to think about it, ruminate, and they're definitely making a statement. It's not just because an anime and video games do this, where like they present a complex idea and say nothing about it, and they just kind of leave it at that, and they just kind of walk away. But Yoko Taro doesn't do that, and honestly, Xenoblade doesn't do that either. So this is why am I putting these games, all of them, in top 5? Because they do something that no other games in the industry do. They don't have games that have this level of love and devotion and care put into their music, their presentation, their world design, their gameplay, and especially not their stories. Not their stories, not their themes, not their points. Like, they don't have that. I wish they did, but they don't. And this is why these games are all in the top 5. That is why they occupy the entirety of my top 5. Hence, this is why I say, yes, Future Redeemed is a game, and then again, the gameplay loop of Future Redeemed to me is perfect. There are massive issues with gameplay in 2 especially, and even bits in Torna and 3 and 1, yes, but like Future Redeemed didn't have any really stupid, annoying gameplay hangups. It fixed all the problems. It found the perfect way to make a wide, linear, large open zone game enthralling start to finish, and it is the only RPG of its kind, the only RPG period, not even Chrono Trigger, the only RPG period where I feel it was a absolute fucking blast. It was fun from start to 100% completion is Future Redeemed. Future Redeemed is the only RPG that I think is 100%, the whole 100% of it is fun. The entirety of the 100%ing it. No other game is like that. No other RPG is fun to 100%. I want them to take what they have with Breath of the Wild. I want them to put real-ass dungeons. I want you to be able to find objects, items, weapons that permanently upgrade and change what your abilities are. I want permanent ability upgrades, and not just at the beginning, but all throughout the game. And I want a story that's worth a shit, that some amount of thought was put into it, and I want music back. I'm not asking a lot.